Hello, it's Warren Hewitt here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm with the great Greg Wurth.
How you doing?
Hi, Greg. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. Well, thank you. I just said to Greg, and I'm really excited. This is the most excited I've been in a studio for a long time. This is Greg is the engineer here. This is Steve Vai's studio. It's called the Harmony Hut, and as a guitar player, it's pretty heavenly. The guitar collection is insane. And the gear collection is out of this world. And I've only just walked into this side in the control room about 2 minutes ago, and we started talking about gear, and I was like, let's just save it for the camera. This is probably one of the best collections of gear I've seen in a long time.
Thank you.
Do you get a lot? You get a lot of choosing, do you?
Yeah, that's what I have pride in. He says if we need new gear, I'm always on the hunt trying to find cool stuff.
Oh, that's great. I just saw a Helios over there that I have only ever seen 4 or 5 times in my life. It's just like I'm a kid in a candy store. This is crazy. So look, I suppose let's just start with a central piece like you would. Here's the console. What can you tell me about this console?
Well, this is a custom console, as you can imagine. Seafoam green.
Yeah, you know.
Steve Furlot and Ian Gardner, they have this company called Tree Audio,
right.
And they make consoles. And when we went to build this studio, because he has a studio in Hollywood that has a late 70s API.
I've seen pictures
that we love, but it's old, and we didn't want to deal with the maintenance and upkeep of a vintage console like that. So we decided to design a new console for the studio. And,
wonderful.
Steve Furlot was he installed that console at the Mothership, and he's been our guy for years. So who better to pull in is
Absolutely.
him to design a console. He knows how we like to work. So, it's all discrete, Class A.
Wonderful.
Basically, it's kind of a Frankenstein because they made a console that supported 500 series.
Right.
But we wanted to make some tweaks on it because, we wanted a couple, other style modules. We got the BAE there, so... Yeah,
the 1073s, 1028s. I love these 1028s.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, extra EQ points, they just sound phenomenal.
And so, the first thought was, how many channels? 32 seems kind of cool.
Right.
We can work with that. One big thing that we wanted the, the EQ type modules here, rather than having the auxiliaries here and pans, like a standard console is.
Makes a lot of sense.
So we kind of flip-flopped that and, decided on these 500 series here, 16, and then 8 Neve style, and we went with BAE.
I love this height here. It feels like the Helios consoles, the way that comes up.
Yeah, we didn't want to be having to lean forward or stand up so much, you know?
Yeah, no, it's beautifully designed. So, wow, let's go left to right. There's so many things here. So, what do we have going on in this first channel coming down here?
Well, the way that I set this up is the top row is all compressors, and the bottom row is EQs.
Wonderful.
And, we got a bunch of inward connection stuff, which is also built by Steve Furlot. That's his other company.
Those are great stuff.
And these are VCA compressors called Vogad, which I love them. And these are Brute limiters, which he makes, which are great.
And those are obviously a lot more aggressive, hence the name Brute.
Yeah, a little bit. They're great.
Right.
They're kind of like similar to his VAC rack limiter, but a solid state version.
What do you prefer, say, these on over these? Do you have do you experiment every time, or are you like, oh, these are great on drums, these are great on guitars?
Well,
what's your sort of feeling?
I don't know. The Brutes, they sound good on anything.
Well, that's nice.
I like them on guitars, vocals, bass.
Right.
But I think for these Vogads, I love them on the drums. The kick and snare, they just sound amazing.
Right. Do they have an SSL-y kind of thing about them?
A little bit, but he's big on transformers and it's all discrete op amps. There's no chips and stuff like that. So it's got a girth to it. And he thinks about what he does. There's a high pass filter in the detector circuit, so you can get those sound amazing on bass if you need to really do like a DBX style kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a high pass filter on a compressor is almost a must.
And he has it on these as well, the limiters.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We had who makes the stay levels, the gates? Retro. We were using the Retro on bass and also on guitars, because with Joe Perry's guitars, he likes a really, really super bright tone. But I wanted to bring out some of the bottom end, so just being able to like take it up to about 200 and just let all that bottom end fly through and just compress everything above that.
Oh, so the Retros, they have a filter.
They have that on.
I've only used the original.
Yeah, it's like the 176 kind of clone, the kind of tube version. I'm not sure what they call it, but it's great on guitars.
Very cool.
I was telling Tim Pierce about one. I think he bought one as well. Those are phenomenal. So these EQs here. Oh, so these are like.
These are fully parametric 4-band EQ.
Wow.
Steve and I Steve Vai, we battled Steve for a lot. We're like, hey, you got to make a fully parametric 4-band EQ in 500 series, and he told us time and time again, I can't do it. It's too small of a format. And eventually he broke down and he got custom pots designed and knobs so he could fit it in, because he won't compromise.
Right.
He doesn't want to put chips and all this stuff. He wants to use op amps and transformers. So he did it. And, they're called the Brat. And it's all fully recallable. It's got detented knobs there.
I love that. I was just at a studio yesterday doing a video, and the detents are just fantastic. Just being able to have it so you can recall is a huge deal. And that quarter dB or whatever it might be, it's like, I don't need between that. I'm fine. I like to be able to recall things the same, like we were just talking about a minute ago with guitar sounds. You want to be able to go back and get that same guitar sound, and if you have to fix something a month later, you don't want to sit there for 4 hours trying to figure out what it was. You want to be able to go click, 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 there it is.
Yeah, and and so he definitely understands, his clients' kind of needs. He hears people, and he gets that he needs to make things. He's always changing a design. If you bought something 1 year, and then maybe 2 or 3 years later, you might see that he's added some features to that.
That's wonderful.
Because he wants to make things as best as it can be.
Well, that's good. I mean, and the good guys, that's the way they are. Now, 550As.
Yeah, these we cherry picked these from the Mothership. Steve has a very, he likes these a lot, There's a special place for these EQs because he's done most of his records.
I see.
With that console.
There's a familiarity with the sound and everything.
And I mean, I work there a lot too, so I love API stuff, so, we snagged 4 EQs.
What are you using these on?
Well, before these used to be on the guitar.
Oh, I see.
Exclusively. So we still use them on guitar.
Right.
I like them on snare, things like that.
Yeah, I track a lot at Sunset Sound, and the drum, I like Studio 3 a lot, and Studio 1. Both of them have, the Sunset Sound custom consoles with the Jensen transformers, but they all have API EQs. So I'm the same way. On drums, I can't think of a better EQ than a 550.
I don't know, they have that proportional cue where you kind of just don't have to think about it. It's great for tracking because you can just quickly
click.
And you don't got to be afraid to boost 6 dB or something.
Yeah, it always sounds good.
Yeah.
There's something about those op amps and those things that the 2520s just soaks up all the transients.
Yeah.
And they always remain really snappy. I love, Neve style pre's, but on drums, APIs just, I don't know what it is. They're super fast. They seem to just make everything super snappy.
Yeah, well, the transformers they don't round off the transients as much.
Right, I see. Very true.
That's what I can tell.
Yeah, I think you're very right. And then the 560s, I love these on kick and snare. On mixes, I use 560s.
Yeah, no, those are cool. Bass, guitar. I feel like you barely have to do anything with those, and you can get a bass to sound really cool.
I agree.
Really fat.
Yeah. And then 525s, are you using those on like drum buses or something fun like that? Yeah,
various things. I mean, those aren't my favorite. It's kind of weird. I don't know. They're really cool, but they have a very specific sound.
I use them on a drum crush a few times. I don't have a pair, but when I think Vintage King gave me a pair to try, and I was using it as a drum crush. I think they do a quite effective kind of, and you pull that underneath. Yeah. There's like a parallel drum crush.
They're kind of hard to understand. You gotta just try it out and see if it works. I mean, I've used it on bass and stuff like that. It sounds really cool on a DI.
Nice.
But it's not like it's my go-to.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm the same way. But I didn't end up buying them, so I know what you mean. The Shadow Hills. Now, I've not seen a 500 series Shadow Hills before. Not in real life.
You know, those guys have a really cool sound.
What are you finding you're using it with?
I like that on drum rooms. You can crush them pretty well.
Oh, nice.
I like them on keyboards, stuff like that.
Right.
It's you know, it's cool. It has a filter and in the detector, so you can kind of tweak some stuff. So that's why I like it on the drum bus sometimes. And
right.
It's pretty cool.
That's great. And then we'll move over to our friend Mark's pre's. Some BAEs.
Yeah, we have 4 1073 modules and 4 1028s.
You're using these on drums?
Yeah, I ever since that Sound City documentary, I've been I've been like, yeah, I want to try it because we've always been doing API. We have a bunch of pre's and at the Mothership.
Right.
So I was like, I want to give it a try, you know.
Right.
And Steve and his bandmates, they come over every once in a while and practice and try and rehearse some stuff. So, you know, we just set up to record.
Right.
Because, you know, Steve's the kind of guy where it's like, if you get him in the room with these musicians, he'll come up with some riff or lick that he'll be like, wait, I wish I'd recorded that. So we always try and record every time. You know, every time he goes and plays in the other room by himself, he's recording. So, yeah, it's me. I want to experiment. I like how it sounds, you know. But, yeah, it's really the documentary. I was like, I want to see what this...
Right. Well, see, I grew up with Neve, so it was more for me coming to America and discovering API. Where for me, Neve, obviously being English, that was it. That was the...
I mean, I've never had the opportunity to really track on a big Neve console.
Oh, we'll have to rectify that.
Yeah, so
we'll have to bring
this
him
is
in
the closest I can get right now.
Right. Well, we'll have to do something about that. That would be fun. And then, what are these last ones here?
These are inward connections modules. These are custom. There's only 8 that exist, and we have them because he built them for this console.
Beautiful.
We just thought, like, hey, can you make a module that has a 4-band EQ and a mic pre? And here it is. So this is basically the same EQ as that.
Feels kind of Trident-y. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well...
The A range?
Maybe the colors or... I don't know.
Must be something about it.
But fantastic. It's the same kind of thing, fully discrete Class A. You know, he uses Cinemag transformers. So my question is, how are you mixing? Fully analog. Fully analog. In this room, it's an analog room. We're using very minimal plugins. Right. Great. Here he's starting to get more into it. You know, I've introduced him to UAD and some other companies. Right. And he's digging that. But you know, I think he mixed an album a few years back in the box, and he's kind of kicking himself. He's just missing the analog sound, so that's why we're always collecting new gear and trying to, you know, because we mix analog. I mean, so I have to recall and take pictures. Yeah, 32 channels. We have a couple inward connection summing mixers. Oh, 2 of them, so we can... What are those? There's one right there, and then there's one in the rack over there. There's a little secret input into the console, which is the switch that I can... feed some stereo signals in from other summing mixers. Interesting. We have an 8-channel one there. So if we, you know, this one up here. Yeah. So we're not limited to summing. How do you feel about these? That's cool. That's an inward connection. Yeah, I mean, but if you, just a question, because I know a lot of people, as we know, are up and coming. You know, I did a hybrid mixing thing where I showed how I mix in the box through my SSL, and obviously I'm using a lot of SSL, EQ, and compression. But I'm also using plugins and stuff and busing and everything in Pro Tools. And I'm sure you do on your own all the time. Yeah. But most people, that's still a big deal, and that's a big financial outlay. I'm sure those aren't cheap, but at the same time, they're a lot less expensive than any kind of console. Correct. So I suppose most people watching this are going to wonder, okay, there's an expensive-ish kind of a piece of equipment. Will it sound like a console? I mean, how do you feel? Yeah, well... Sorry to put you on the spot, but I mean, it's designed by the same guy who built this console, so it has the same stuff. He's using the same op amps. He has a 24-volt op amp, the SPA 690 that he's using on the console and summing and monitoring, and we're using that on those. And you know, he's got the same transformer, so it's just a dumbed down version of this big console here. And you know, there's no compromise. I mean, his stuff is expensive.
Sure.
And so you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I had a pair. I think we were talking about this. I had a pair on it of compressors that I was using on acoustic guitars, and it's probably the best acoustic guitar sound I ever got. And then I asked how much they were when I borrowed them. I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna get a pair of that.
Was it the back rack limiters or?
Yes.
Yeah, those are amazing.
It was a pair of these on acoustic guitars. It was insane. You see how you're using on a vocal, yeah. It's
bass and vocal. Yeah, I love them on.
I don't know what it does to the top end, but it just opens it up.
Well,
sparkles the.
See, Steve Furlot, he's a tube guy.
Right.
I mean, all this stuff is solid state, but he knows tubes well.
Right.
And personally, they're better than an LA2A.
Oh God, that's not hard to beat. Sorry, I'm actually not an LA2A.
You know, we have a pair of them, so I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, I love them as well. But those, you can put them in stun mode, which is full reduction, and you don't really hear it. And there's a high pass filter on there, and you flip it, and you're just the vocals right here, or the bass just sounds fat. It's just. It just wraps a big fat blanket around it.
I loved it on acoustic. I loved it on acoustic because I won't mention the names, but when I'm tracking with guys that are only electric guitar players, which most rock guys growing up, like they're electric guitar players, and so you get on acoustic, it's a whole different feel.
Yeah.
So not everybody's a good acoustic guitar player. That's an amazing electric guitar player. And the other way around, a great acoustic guitar player is terrible usually on electric guitars because they have the wrong touch.
Right.
So I was tracking these guys, and it took like this very uneven, roughish sounding acoustic guitar and just made it beautiful and even and sparkly. And it had that thing, where a really great compression kind of makes it feel like it's this ball of something you could just pick up, when something just sits in here.
Yeah.
To me, it was like the best compressor I've ever heard on acoustic guitar in my life.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chris Lord-Alge, Eddie Kramer, people like that, they're using, like, I think Chris has like 10 channels of those.
I believe so. I've mixed with him, yeah.
I actually just got an original vac rack, that's the first version of the vac rack limiter.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here. That's
Well, this is the first incarnation of the Inward Connections vac rack. This is a 2-channel version. He made a 4-channel lunchbox type of thing. It's all tube. Right. He put it out, I think, in the 90s, about around there, and he made it's almost like a 500 series where you can move modules around. He made a mic pre, EQ, and a DI and a limiter.
I remember them. I remember being pretty stunned by how amazing they were back in those days.
I'd always been keeping an eye out for them. And
how did you find that?
Online.
On eBay?
Yeah. And, I don't have a problem buying used Inward Connection stuff because I know him and I can just bring it to him.
Absolutely.
And so I was lucky with that.
And you've got quite a plethora of outboard effects here. So you have a Sans amp, a TC Electronics spatial expander stereo chorus.
Yeah, the 1210.
Yeah.
The CS5. I don't really know much about it.
Nor do I.
But it's really cool. We do. We put it on like a bus, like a guitar bus, and we'll kind of blend it in, and they're cool. We either use that or the 1210.
And a 300 here. So you're basically using a lot of external effects on mixing?
Yeah, as much as possible. Like I said, in this room, we're not really doing a lot of plugins. I mean, we're doing a little bit. But,
no, that's great.
So it's not so much of a hybrid setup.
Eventide?
Yeah, that's the 2016, the original.
Yeah, I remember these. Jack Douglas was telling me about these because when he was at Record Plant in the 70s, I don't know who started this company, but would come in all the time with all new different... He told me they used to use a 8-bit digital delay, or it might have been 4-bit, on the snare with like a shortest possible delay just to add bottom end to the snare. So it was like boom, boom.
Yeah.
Well, all kinds of stuff.
It's funny about these old reverb units. I think that the reason why these sounded good is because they were just lo-fi.
Yeah.
They had less bits, like you said, 8 bits or whatever, and I just think there's like a little grit
Absolutely.
to it, and that's why we like them,
Yeah. I did an interview with this great producer, this guy called Ohash, who's doing a lot of pop rock stuff, and does everything in the box and does a great job. Opened everything up, and every other thing had a lo-fi plugin in it, or decapitator, or some kind of distortion.
Yeah.
To make it sound a little crapper and a little bit more analog and a little bit more like what we like.
I don't think a lot of people realize that, because I was trying to figure it out, you know, because a lot of these, they model these on plugins and like, it never sounds right. And it's like, you know what? It's because it's not as good on paper as, you know, these newer ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just character, I think.
Yeah, a little dirt didn't hurt anybody. Especially, you know, like we were talking about, coming from like Zappa and everything just being a little screwed up is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
So these I love. I've always been a Tube Tech fan.
Yeah.
I think that they, you know, before Steve Jackson started, you know, rebuilding the original Pultecs, for me, this was the only way to go.
Yeah, we actually got those from Dweezil.
Oh, you did?
He was getting rid of some stuff, and then he contacted us and said, "Hey, I think you guys might like these." And
oh, wow.
We tried them out for a while, and then we kept them.
Great.
They're great on guitars.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Kick and snare. I mean, they're great on anything.
Mark Ender, the mixer, I don't know if you know Mark, he uses his on vocals when he mixes.
Yeah. I know a lot of hip hop guys. It's like they use that in a 1073.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
Yeah, they're great on vocals. I love them.
And then, wow, these are some crazy looking Avalons. I actually don't know these. What can you tell me about these?
Well, Steve, these are from Steve's original collection.
Right.
As far as I know, these were meant for the original Avalon console.
Oh, wow.
And Steve got a few. They make a compressor, but we only have the mic pre and EQ. They're really cool. I mean, they're really, really rare.
Right.
They sound great.
Yeah, I've never seen them. I kind of like this sort of brushed aluminum look.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. And it gives it a real vintage kind of effect. Now, ADR stuff, I've always loved.
Yeah.
The Compexes are definitely an acquired taste, but when you get them, I'm sure you're going to back me up, when you get them sounding good, you want to use them all the time.
Those have to be the hardest to figure out units I've ever had. I mean, we had them for a while, and we swore they were broken. Kept sending them back, no, they're working fine, and I finally figured out how to use them, and they're just they're amazing. Yeah, you find that one setting on the one thing, and you're like, this is incredible. Don't touch the knobs. Yeah, and the EQ is actually really cool. I got that a few years ago when we were mixing the Story of Light album for Steve. Right. And we love it. I mean, we used it on keyboards. There was like some horn keyboard parts, and we used that, and it was like, wow. Made it sound really cool. They're rare. I mean, it's funny that what is it? Boz Labs started putting out a plugin, like a David Bendith sponsored plugin that's basically those two combined. I never knew that. I'm not. You're a bit more up on that stuff. I didn't know. But yeah, I used to do quite a lot of stuff at Echo Park in Indiana, which is one check from Mellencamp's band studio, and they had a Compex, and that was the first place I ever really got to play with one. They had a 670 and a Compex. I mean, that's dedicated on like drum rooms or drum bus. It's it just has a thing. That's all it does, but it does it right. That's right. It's exactly the way it was for me. It was like you found that thing, you tweaked it, you just never touched it. And of course, Neve. 33609. What are you favoring these on? Believe it or not, we're using those on kick and snare. We do like a parallel thing here. Where we squash the crap out of a kick and snare, and we were using that for the squash. And we just blended in with an uncompressed. These, when I was a kid, you could buy for like $100. Nobody cared. Nobody liked them. I personally think these on like a clean kind of Fleetwood Mackie, Rihanna kind of guitar sound are unbelievably good. I love them. I don't know why anybody would not like this. Yeah, but there was a whole period like in the 80s where this was just like nobody cared. Even in the early 90s. I wish I was around in those times because I would have bought everything. Yeah, because even when I first moved here in like 95, these were like $400. Yeah. And then, but on like, if you want that kind of percussive, clean electric, unbelievable. I've seen these shoot up in value. We use them on toms too. Toms, I can imagine that. Pow, pow. It's kind of cool. Yeah. They have and God, what's not to love? 2 frickin' controls. I mean, God bless America. Yeah, I like the simple stuff. Yeah, me too. You know, the less controls, the better. Now, Dave Jordan's a good friend of mine, and he loves these. Him and, I don't know if you knew Brian Karlstrom, unfortunately died a couple of years ago. Brian, when I did records with those two guys, they had a lot of Summit stuff.
they're softer, but I kind of like them. They're a little bit like I could get aggressive with them and it not destroy it too much, you know. But do you have any fun with it?
Yeah, we use them a lot on guitars.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, that's mostly what we use them for.
Oh, great.
It's just got like a nice little warm sound.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I've always, Brian had racks and racks of this stuff. He had 24 of the pre's. He had like 6 of these. I mean, everything was through the Summit.
I would love to get a pair of those limiters that they make. I haven't gotten around to it. Yeah,
they're fantastic. They're really good. Now, I don't know what this is, so I've never actually seen a Demeter compressor. Is this good?
Yeah, they're cool. I forgot what it's supposed to sound like. It's a tube compressor.
Right.
You know, they work.
So it's tube optical compressor.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is it's got, you know, the attack and release settings. So that's kind of not very common in an optical.
No, it's not.
So
very uncommon. Yeah, it's not in an LA2A. Well, so going back to the side of the console here, you've got a nice collection of 312s. I see here, BAE 312s.
You know, because we love API sound style stuff. And, you know, these are 4 original API.
Right.
And these are another pair of cards that a friend of mine, SVT Audio, racked these up. Yeah, I mean, since we don't have the old API, we have this.
That's wonderful.
Because we like those pre's for guitars.
Do you, and what are these two here?
And these are Inward Connections Magnum mic pre's.
I don't know those.
He makes his own. They're really cool.
I'm going to get his information from you after this.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay. Yauen Smart, what do you think?
I like it. I'm not the hugest SSL fan, but they're great. I mean, we use them for overheads and stuff like that. I don't like it on a drum bus so much. I don't know. You
know, it's a great product, and for a lot of people, that's probably something that's affordable.
It seems like you got to have an SSL type compressor in the studio.
Yeah, I agree.
People expect that.
I agree. So the Valley, wow.
Yeah, the gain brain too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cool. It's kind of like auxiliary, you know. It's like when we have something that's.
These go in and out of fashion. Sometimes people love them, and then I don't hear anybody talking about them. What are you using them for? When you do use them?
I don't know. Just extra stuff. We haven't used them in a while.
Right.
You know, they're cool for drums and stuff like that.
This is what I first got excited about, only because I've ever seen a couple in my whole life. The old Helios here. This is beautiful. And are you using this much?
Yeah, we use it. We use that on our keyboard bus.
Nice.
It sounds great. It's got an awesome mid range.
Yeah.
And
they're wonderful.
It's just got a lot of settings there.
And then a GML, of course.
Yeah, got to have one.
And how do you find it not being center detented and not being?
It's pretty difficult to look at these things and understand how to use them.
Yeah.
What's what. But they sound cool. I mean, we use them on bass.
Yeah.
Bass
that's
guitar,
nice.
You know.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of options. You can get a really fat sound with it.
And a couple of original Pultecs.
Yes. Steve's had along with pretty much this whole rack, he's had these, you know, from his original days.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know,
nice
these are the Pultecs he mentions in Passion Warfare. You know, there's like a joke.
Oh, well.
You know, everyone thinks the slate he does, and I forgot which song it is.
Right.
If you're familiar. Remember he does a slate where he's like, 2 dB on the Pultec.
I remember the album well.
These are those
too old
Pultecs.
to remember the titles.
But a lot of people don't realize it's like that was a real slate. I mean, we slayed all the mixes because it's all analog. But that one was a joke because he obviously had probably been mixing all day, and he's like,
right.
You know, he wanted to speak fast and be a little.
So yeah, a couple 1176s down here.
A pair of 1178s.
Oh wow! God bless the 1178. I actually like these. I used to use these on rooms in England in the studio I used to work at.
Yeah, those are cool. We use them on drums. I mean, toms.
That's great.
And these we use on vocals.
Yeah, 1176 on vocal. Nice little collection here. Love the AMS stuff.
Yeah, the Ampex 16. This is used exclusively for non-Lin.
Right.
Non-Lin 2. That's
nice.
like, you know, Steve likes that on the drums.
Wonderful.
And so, yeah. And this is one where it's like, there's no plugins that really sound. as much like it. I know that UAD just came out with one, and we haven't had a chance to compare it. But I look forward to it because
UAD have been doing the best stuff recently, haven't they?
Yeah, they impress me every time. So
okay, so what do we have down here?
Lexicon PCM96.
Oh wow, I've never used 96. Do you use it on much?
Yeah, we use it for like hall and hall verbs and stuff like that. Vocal, acoustics.
Great.
It's really cool.
And then a pair of original LA2As there.
Yeah, yep. These are from the Mothership.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Wow, that is so much gear. That's insane. Yeah. And then there's guitars we could talk about for about 6 hours.
I know.
So you have an ATR-102?
Well, Steve does. Well, he bought this from Frank Zappa. So this is definitely a special machine. Steve mixed all his records to this.
Wow.
And we still use it to this day. I mean, his last album, The Story of Light, he mixed to this.
I just remember being 16 years old and having Shake Your Booty. And at I went to a great school in England. I remember our art teacher used to let us bring in albums to play.
Yeah.
So while we were painting and doing stuff, we had, it's just an old school mono one. They didn't have a great stereo system there. And I'd bring it in and I'd play Shake Your Booty. And I just have such overwhelming memories of Zappa. And it's just, to me, it was like a musical dream. Growing up on like Queen, which is very musical, and Brian May's guitar playing being wonderful, and that musicality. And then Zappa was like the entry level into like jazz and craziness, and it was just, it all made it pull together for me. So
yeah, he broke all the rules.
Broke all the rules, and then wrote chamber music. Just how many albums did he? I think when he died, he had 30, 40, 50, 60 albums or something.
He comes out with albums like every year. I mean, they're unveiling stuff from the vaults that have never been heard before.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, that the term genius is not overused when you apply it to Frank Zappa.
Well, yeah. So this machine is very special.
That is very special. I see you have what we like to call an R2D2.
Yeah. It's an EMT 250. This is also from the Mothership. Steve used to have a rental company called Light Without Heat.
Oh, he did?
And he was renting out a lot of gear, and that's how he kind of paid off the gear.
Nice.
And he kept a lot of choice pieces, and this, we still use it for snare.
This is, Jack Douglas calls these the R2D2.
They're cool. I mean, I love that like UAD modeled these types of things, because these are such a pain in the ass to move around, and I love them, but it's great when you can save yourself from having to recall all these things, especially this, which is like over 100 pounds. Yeah,
and sounds wonderful.
Kind of proud of this rack because we just received this Burl Mothership.
Oh wow!
And this is a company, I've known them for a few years, and I've been using their converters and mic pre's and stuff like that. And I've been trying to convince Steve to get into it, and we did a lot of testing, and he decided to pull the trigger. So
wonderful.
We started off with an 8x8, but we're using Lynx Aurora 16s, so we have 32.
I used to have a pair of these in one of my studios. I really, really like those.
They're great. Yeah. I mean, we got them when they first came out, and we've been comparing them for years, and we've never really found anything that replaces them. I mean, the Burl is a different animal. They have transformers on the input channels.
A whole different sound. Yeah. You create an atmosphere where Steve just walks in there, plays some music, and it comes up amazing. That's incredible.
I mean, a big thing for me is preparation.
Right.
I'll spend a day or two before and make sure that I can do things, because I know that I might not have a chance to tweak something or check something last second.
Right.
That's a big thing. I don't think a lot of people understand. People want to show up an hour before a session, and it's like, that's not even close to enough time.
No, I agree. I agree.
But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I understand. And that's a wonderful attribute. Well, this is amazing. And this room is absolutely insane. This is a guitar player's dream. There's also a beautiful drum kit here, a DW drum kit. I don't know what to say. Oh, and there's some Grammys up on the wall. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
Oh, thanks for showing me around this place. It's beautiful. As a guitar player and a gear nut, this is like heaven. We were just talking about the studio. There's nothing pretentious about this studio. It's all function and beautiful. It's like, this is what a guitar player would have, any guitar player, a collection of beautiful guitars from his Ibanez that specifically made for him, to his collection of some beautiful vintage guitars. There's the Frank Zappa SG you were telling me about, which is gorgeous. I mean, and of course Steve's guitar that he played with Zappa.
Yeah, the sticker
and all flexible. I mean, it's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. It's supposed to be a dream to come here every day and work.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm lucky, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for taking us around. I really appreciate it. Yeah. As ever, please subscribe. Go to producelikeapro.com and sign up for the email list, and you can get a whole bunch of goodies. And thanks, Greg, again.
Yep.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.